Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast and we return for our Transfer Roundup weekly special. Look, if you're with us for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on X, we're on Instagram, we are on Facebook and we're on Blue Sky too. And we've been joined by many top tier journalists throughout the week already. I'm delighted to say joining us is another top tier panel that are going to guide you, take you into the weekend and give you all the latest news on Tottenham's transfer pursuit during this January transfer window. Are Spurs going to get, of course, Muani over the line after rumours in the last 24, 48 hours that Man United are doing everything determined to sign the player? Apparently, he's already said yes to Juventus. So what are Tottenham doing? We're going to find that out during this show. We're also going to be talking about potential links to the midfield. It looks like as things stands, Timo Werner is going to remain a Tottenham Hotspur player. Wide of the mark talk that Eintracht Frankfurt are looking to sign him. And are Spurs going to be active, of course, for these next 3.5 and a bit weeks to go, as we are already nearly towards the end of week one of the transfer window. How quick has that gone? And we're finally bringing you a preview of Tamworth in the Cup. Let's hope it's the magic in the right way, not the wrong way. We know what it's like being Spurs fan. Joining me on this Last Word on Spurs, I've got Jonny Hamme making his return. I've got Mitch, Fretton, and I've got Sean over at the Spurs Talk Show. Yes, I'm bringing Devil's Advocate together for, again, this time at a time. Jonny and Shawnee back together, Mitch with us as well. Please follow them on their respective platforms. Let's get Johnny's Instagram back up and running. Please, let's get Shawnee. Keep getting Shawnee what he's doing over at the Spurs Talk Show. Loads of content out there on the transfer side. And Mitch as well, really busy on his show as well. Show, platform, bringing lots of transfer news to the Spurs masses. Keep liking, keep subscribing, guys. Busy month in store. But we'll turn our attention first, if we can, to where we are in this pursuit of Muani, a player that, since really the window has opened, Tottenham have had their fingerprints over, but as of yet, a deal yet to be over the line. And, you know, Michael Bridge, friend of the show, Bridgie, was on Sky very recently saying people are asking if Tottenham are going to get a defender in, but he's led to believe that the priority is still a forward, and there is concrete interest in Muani. And Daniel Levy's understood to have a very good relationship with the chair of PSG. And it's worth also bringing into play here that we have had news in this 24, 48 hours. As I mentioned, the player has reportedly said yes to Juventus and are now working to find an agreement with Paris Saint-Germain. And we're also hearing Manchester United are absolutely determined to do whatever they need possible to sign the French forward. So we'll start with you, Jonny. Muani, where are we in your opinion? Can he still be a Spurs player by the end of this January window?
I'm just trying to work it out. If Man United are taking him and Juventus are taking him, that's 50% each.
We'll just take his legs. We'll just take his legs.
Really, it leaves us his boots. Look, I think the thing is, you know, he's a player in demand. Have United at the moment got money? I'm not sure they have. They need probably to get rid of Rashford, Anthony, as a whole list. When we're going to spend the whole show going through the list. And also Juventus, you know, they're looking to offload certain players. There's talk of Douglas Luiz, which we'll come on to, and other players to make this deal possible. Look, the thing is, we love our club, obviously, and to us, it's everything. But, you know, to a kid like Muani, who's gone from Eintracht Frankfurt to PSG, does he feel like coming to Spurs is dropping down a level, whereas going to Juventus and to Man United is maintaining the level and maintaining his reputation? I think that's the way. I don't know what the pitch will be, but for Spurs, let's be honest, right? We've been burnt so many times with French wingers and Dombele and Kudu and Jay. I mean, we've just enough of them, right? So you can fully understand why Spurs, having PSG signing for 80 million and returned 8 goals, are cautious in the fact that, you know, has his head been turned by the money and life, that they only want to deal with an option rather than an obligation. I think it's sensible. I'd love him to come, as I think majority of fans would, but I think this is a sensible deal. I don't think, you know, we can really blame Daniel Levy, although many would like to, and I blame him for many things. I don't think we can blame him if he turns us down here, because we're competing against two big teams, and the obligation over the option.
Jonny, thank you so much. And Mitch, to bring you in on this point, it's a player that we understand very much has been courted by a lot of top European clubs. But as we understand at the moment, according to, again, friend of the show, Fabrizio Romano, that Spurs are trying, Juventus are trying, there are other clubs in the picture as well. Does it worry you, Mitch, that if this still doesn't get done soon, it feels like this one might peter out? Where are you on it, Mitch? Or do you have a feeling that it could go right to the end of the month, this?
Yeah, I think it's always the case when there's a lot of clubs interested. I saw one report today saying that, it's not just those three clubs that are interested in Kolo Muani as well. You've got the likes of Chelsea, Villa, a few others, all keeping tabs on him. So when you've got that much interest in you, it's probably, PSG are probably sitting there quite happy thinking, someone's going to take him by the end of the month. And so from their perspective, they're in absolutely no rush. Whereas on this side of things, we know that Andrew's looking to bring players in quite early in the transfer window, because we've got 7 games across a month, 7 or 8 games across a month, important ones as well. Obviously, North London derbies next week. And as it stands, we're still very light going into that one. So, yeah, it's very difficult. But I think Fabrizio said that it's a wide open race. So nothing's been decided yet. The player can agree terms with as many teams as he likes. At the end of the day, it will be between the two clubs to negotiate and finalise any deals that are going to happen. And I know that Daniel Levy has a very good relationship with PSG and Al Khalifi. So, that may work in our favour. But ultimately, as mentioned already by Jonny, they're two other big teams very much in the race for him. And if he did pick one of them, what would be your argument for thinking, well, why has he done that then? That's sort of the only thing, especially as we want to do business relatively quickly as well. So, yeah, I'm still hopeful. I haven't given up hope on it yet. But I think a realistic approach to the whole situation is that it's a very competitive market for him. And in all honesty, I don't think any journalist or anyone knows what his move is going to be right this second.
It's interesting, Mitch, you bring that into play there. And Shawnee, look, he's a player that can play across the front line. You've already spoke to a couple of journalists in the last week or so that would definitely suggest that he would improve Tottenham's front line. There's no doubt about that. Just on this point, Shawnee, I mentioned there to Mitch, with the longer the move doesn't materialise, does that feel that it won't happen? What's your gauge on it, Sean, for you? I know, again, similar to me, you're across the beat when it comes to the transfer and what you're doing on the Spurs talk show at the moment. What's your gauge on it for you, Sean? If I asked you a gut feeling right now, what would you say it is in terms of him being a Tottenham player by the end of the window?
Yeah, look, I think that I agree with what both guys are saying. I personally think he will be at Tottenham, but I'm not that bothered if he doesn't. I see that. I like the player. I really do like the player. I think he would add value. I think a lot of players, most players would add value to our front line at the moment. I think that there's a lot of room for improvement. What I would say is he's a striker predominantly more than he is a winger. And I think that Tottenham, whilst there's logic to the idea that you need support for Dom Solanke, we do have Richarlison returning soon. And I don't know if anyone saw the bench cam, by the way, from when we scored the goal. Richarlison looked fully coised when Bergvall stuck that delicious finish away. So, I'm not a massive fan of Richarlison as the player for Tottenham, but I love the person. And I've got to be honest, I still sit there and think, is he going to be the guy that can really offer Solanke enough support? I don't know. So the idea for me of bringing in a striker that can also play left and right does make a lot of sense. But we need more help on the wings than we do in the 9, in my opinion. And I think that where Muani has been most powerful, most dangerous, most valuable to the teams he's played for, international and in Germany, and more latterly in France, he's obviously been as the out and out 9. And I look at that and I see he's a different type of player to Dom Solanke. But if you are going to put him in the 9, then that doesn't solve the issues that we have out on the left and right. And he's an unproven prospect for me as a left winger. So I see the value and I like the player, and I'd be happy if he comes in. Do I think he's going to come in? Yes, I'd go with Mitch's the point he makes about the relationship between Daniel Levy and the QSI man. I think that there's value there, and obviously that relationship does have some meaning. I'd also remind people that just because we're up against Juventus and Manchester United. Man United are not the draw that they used to be. We have history recently of taking on Barcelona for Bergval's signature and we won, and we have history taking on Bayern Munich for Dragusin's signature and we won. So I think that there is enough recent history and trajectory within our own ability to draw players in. That means I think that we can compete both in the stakes of the kind of the draw of playing in the Premier League, playing in London. It comes down to money and it comes down to desire. Like I say, I'm happy to see it. I think it probably will happen. If it doesn't, though, if it does go in a different direction, there are other options out there. One of them, I don't know if we're going to talk about it now, if I can make the seamless transition, but obviously Jonathan David is a player that is a lot cheaper. He's a free transfer in the summer. I don't know why we don't just, go and have that conversation with Lille, make an offer they can't refuse. This guy is a player that splits a lot of people's opinions on the kind of like the viability of whether he's good enough, but you can't hate the numbers. Everywhere he's been, at every level, Champions League, Europa League, Conference League, in the French Ligue 1, internationally, this guy bangs in the goals like nobody's business. And if I'm entirely honest, I think he's developed as a player in the last 18 months. I think I've never really understood the value before, but more recently I've been seeing areas of his game that I didn't see before. And I think he suits our system very much so. Now, again, you're fitting for a 9 there, not the wingers. So I don't necessarily know if it's a complete best fit. But for me, if you can't get Kolo, if he does go in a different direction, there are other options out there that are less kind of expansive or less sort of dilutive, rather, is the word, on our budgets that allow us then to maybe pivot into other areas that we could go and get like a Patrick Dorgu who can play on the forward on both sides. And therefore you can kill two birds with two stones for the same money as you would get by paying Kolo Muani's wages and whatever the loan fee would be. So there's options regardless. I do think Kolo will be the guy that comes to Tottenham, but if he doesn't, like I say, I'm not that bothered either way.
It's interesting. I mean, Johnny, coming up to you there. I mean, surely brings up Jonathan David. I mean, I thought, at the end of the day, I think this will be a Daniel Levy typical signing, a guy that's come into the end of his contract, an opportunity to bring somebody in on a fairly nominal fee. And you'd argue this is one of the very few opportunities that the parent club now have the opportunity to get a fee for the player. If it's not to be Muani, Jonathan David, I mean, Sean there talks about his numbers, and to be fair, his numbers are impressive given wherever he has been and given the competitions that he's played in. Would that be a player that you might see Spurs turn their attention to this window if they can't get Muani over the line? Jay?
This is a player that I really like. I've been watching him for quite a long time. And as Sean said, he had some aspects of his game which left a little bit to be desired, some of his finishing and stuff. But, he's really come on this season. I think he's got 11 goals in 16 appearances. But he's 24 years of age. We talk about him. He seems to have been around such a long time that, we talk about him like he's, maybe 28, 29, but he's not. He's young. 31 goals out of 58 appearances for Canada. 7 goals in 14 appearances in the Champions League. 3 goals, 2 assists in 15 games in the Europa League. I like it. And I'd be amazed if Levy and the Spurs camp don't like it. And he's a player that's still developing. He fits into the age group. And quite honestly, the only thing is what Sean mentioned before. His best position really is an out-and-out striker. He does play he has played many times as an attacking midfielder as well. Can he play out wide? I'd love to have him or Muani, or both. But I think this deal is too good a deal to turn down at the moment. I mean, if we wait till the summer, I think we're totally out of the ball game. He would have so many suitors, we won't even be at the races. And I think now's the time to strike. Offer them 20, 25 million. I mean, this is a guy who was worth 50 million last January.
Yeah.
And now we're looking at maybe they can squeeze 20, 25 million out of him. Whether the camp themselves, Jonathan David's camp themselves, want to get a move now or wait to the summer and get the financial rewards that will be on offer come the summer. And they will be plentiful. And that's the only thing that maybe stops this deal going through. But I really like this deal. I think it gives us a lot more options up front. He's a class player. Along with Muani, I think either or would bring something much needed to this Tottenham attack.
It's interesting. I mean, bringing you in there, Mitch,
and he's two-footed.
Thank you on that, Jonny. Thanks so much for that information. What's interesting, Mitch, Ange Postecoglou let slip, you might argue, a few weeks back in a presser that Tottenham are looking to get help for Dominic Solanke. I mean, as far to suggest that will be both internally and externally when he was asked with regards to trying to build some form of support around him. Now, look, we do understand Richarlison is targeting a return in that North London derby against Arsenal next week. But I think what has become very apparent with Richarlison is that you unfortunately can't be 100% sure of his availability. He has been very injury prone since really joining the football club. So I just wonder, on your mind, Mitch, when we're talking here about forwards and potential players that we're looking at, is that what you see as the absolute priority that Tottenham must bring in another forward in this window for you, Mitch?
I wouldn't say it's the absolute priority, no. I think defensively is obviously the main area that we're struggling in at the moment. We've been playing Radu Dragusin and Archie Gray at centre-back for the last 3 weeks. So, and there's the thing is, I'd love to sit here and say I'd prefer to prioritise an attacking player because, the beautiful part of football is watching players in the final third of the pitch and watching your team score goals. But unfortunately, there's no guarantee, even till the end of the season, that Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero come back and one of them doesn't get injured again. Unfortunately, it's just kind of seems to be a reoccurring pattern between the pair of them, that one of them or both of them are injured at any given time. So it's I would prioritise that more than anything else at the moment. I'm just hoping that behind the scenes and in the background there is work going on to sound out a defender that we can bring in this month. I'm not saying that that's necessarily how it works, because going back to the sort of Muani links, there's a lot of clubs interested in him. So if you don't get your foot in the door early, at least, then your opportunity probably goes very, very quickly. And as the guys have mentioned about Jonathan David as well, he will have a lot of suitors in the summer. I don't think he'll move this month. I'd be surprised if he moves this month. Signing bonuses in the summer and everything else in between, with no transfer fee involved. I think it's probably maybe a bit easier to sign attackers than it is defenders at the moment, with who's on the market and who's available. And Ange Postecoglou loves a particular type of defender, a versatile defender, it seems, people that are not afraid to play out from the back and, are confident in what they're doing. And maybe that's just not in as much supply at the moment, and particularly in a January transfer window in the middle of the season. Most teams aren't going to want to lose that solid base that they have at the back of their team. So, yeah, I'd still prioritise a defender first. But at the end of the day, I'm not a scout or a sporting director. So, yeah, maybe they've got their reasons for why they're going after who they're going after at certain times across the January window.
Mitch, just one question I want to ask around the panel before we look at where we are with regards to the rest of potential transfers. If I say to you, Mitch, at the end of the first week of the transfer window, Tottenham would have brought in an alternative goalkeeper, and that would be the end of week 1, what would you have thought about that if I said that to you at the top? Well, if I said that to you a week before the transfer window opening.
Well, Andrew's made it very, very clear that he wants help and he wants players through the door. And he made that very, very clear very early in December. So I'm maybe leaning towards the opinion that it's a little bit frustrating, because I'm happy with the Kinski sign, and he was obviously brilliant against Liverpool a few days ago, and we needed a backup goalkeeper. So that's brilliant. But we still have so many areas that we need to address, and you blink and all of a sudden we're 10 days into the transfer window and it doesn't look like anything is imminent. I know you can take that with a pinch of salt because of how Lange operates, but it doesn't look like there's anything imminent right this second. So the likelihood is, as it stands, we're still going to be waiting until at least next week at some point before anything else actually happens. And at that point, you're halfway through the January transfer window already.
Yeah.
And you've wasted 2 weeks, 3 or 4 games into January where you could have had reinforcements. I know it's not that easy to just bring players in. You can't just click your fingers and they're there and they can come in and make an impact straight away. But that's what you plan before the January transfer window for. And you go in with a plan, you get things done. But it's all about negotiations with the people at the top of our club, isn't it? And getting the best deal out of it. And that's always been our sort of stumbling block. And it maybe looks like that's what's going on as well now.
I mean, we can't trust them though, can we? We can't trust them because look, at the end of the day, if I'm not mistaken, did Ange not say when we had a crisis and he was asked, are you going to bring in a goalkeeper during the window? No. I'm sure that's what he said.
Yeah, he did. No. He said goalkeeper want to be the target. Yeah, at the time.
So let's believe nothing that they say and create our own theories. Yeah.
Well, I mean, on the theories, Johnny, just to come over to you on that point, if I said to you, we'd be closer to the first week of the transfer and at the end of it, and we would only brought in that alternative goalkeeper, what would your thoughts be? Because I agree with Mitch. I think definitely Ange has made it very, very clear. The players that he's got need help, need support. And look, I think before the window opened, Tottenham were around 10th or 11th, and we're remaining in that position at the moment. So would you use that same word as Mitch uses, frustrating? We haven't done more coming to the end of this first week, or are you still thinking there is time still to play here? I mean, it's a very big next couple of weeks for the football club. What's your gauge on where we are at the moment with regards to incomings at present?
Well, I think the Kinski deal was opportunity. Although we've been watching him for such a long time, the news was that there was gathering momentum as far as clubs were looking at this kid, and it was felt that we had to move now to have a chance of getting him, because other clubs were there in the mix even now. But am I disappointed? Look, last January, we were the biggest spending club in the January transfer window, and most people were underwhelmed with Radu and Timo. I can understand why, but we were the biggest spenders. I think, yes, I am a little bit frustrated, and I'm sure many are, because for 18 months I've been wanting a left back. I love Hincape. We Sean and I have talked about Dorgu. There's so many, and I think that for us, the left centre back is the number one priority for this club. I know Andrew says, he needs help up front. I get that, but for me, that's where we really need to concentrate.
Well, it's interesting, Shawnee, come and bring Shawnee into the show. I know one of the players that I think me and you should like the look of, that looks now firmly off the table, can I just say, is Abdulkadir Kusanov, who now is closing in on a move to Manchester City. We understand, according to Fabrizio Romano, Pep Guardiola has given this deal the green light. He's the main target, and agreement with RC Lens is at final stages. The player has already agreed personal terms, and he wants that move to Manchester City. So that is one you can most definitely now rule out. We know for Tottenham, they have been reportedly tracking the likes of Thomas Christensen. We know from a friend of the show as well, Paul O'Keefe, that Itakura is a backup option. When we talk about, again, that point around the fact, Mitch suggests there that defenders may very well be a priority for Tottenham. Shawnee, is there, the players that we've discussed here, anybody outside that, can you see Spurs looking to target in these next couple of weeks of the window when we're still waiting on return dates for Mickey van der Ven, Christian Romero? I think we understand that those players are likely to be back later on in January. But the way Tottenham are going to want to play, the way they want to play that game intensity, we are going to have to still be very careful with the way we do operate with the squad. What's your take, Shawnee, in terms of Tottenham's pursuit for defenders?
Yeah, so I think the kind of versatility thing is an interesting one, because if you go something like Ko Itakura, you have a left-sided centre-back or a right-sided centre-back, right? He's not a left-back. He's a sort of dual-sided, but he's right-footed primarily. If you're going to do that, then you still need to cover your left-back option. And if you go down the path of a Patrick Dorgu, then you're getting the versatility out of a Dorgu who can play left-back, left winger, right winger. He's played most of this season as a right winger with the inverted left foot. But the guy's fantastic, but he's not what you would describe as a defensive fullback, a traditional fullback. He's more of a wing back that has the ability to sort of drive forward and cause mayhem. And he's a brilliant player. I'd love to see him come in. I think he would absolutely tear teams apart. But I see him more predominantly as a forward, right? As a wing forward that, if needed, can play in that kind of more defensive role, as long as you have the support around him through a more a traditional defensive six that can sit in the box and protect, similar to how Basuma did against Liverpool. So it really depends on what the profile is. If you're looking for a more defensive left back and you're trying to kill two birds with one stone then you might look for someone like I mentioned before. I know on Monday's show, Ben Jacobs kind of said he hadn't heard much about it, but someone like a David Hanko at Feyenoord is a perfect fit for me. I think he's absolutely sensational. He's a big, tall, strapping geezer, brilliant in the air, and he can play left-sided centre-back. He's left-footed, so you can cover for Mickey van der Ven, and he can also slide out to the left-back. But he's not someone that's going to gallop forward and be like that gazelle that can move forward and do the wonderful things that Destiny Udogie or Jed Spence can do, but he does offer that kind of defensive cover. So to me, it's like I don't know. I'm not in the mind of obviously Ange and Langer and Paratici in terms of what it is, the profile that they're looking for in terms of that defensive reinforcement on the left back spot. But if they're looking for someone who can do a left back and a left fullback, a left-sided centre back and a left back spot, there's options out there. Koa Takura isn't that guy. Koa Takura can play right-sided centre back or left-sided centre back.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people confuse Itakura with Hiroki Ito, who was a player at Stuttgart who ended up going to Bayern Munich, who can play left-sided centre-back and left-back, but then he got injured before he's even kicked the ball. I think he's been at Bayern Munich now for 6 months, and I think he's been injured the whole time. So that deal obviously was something that Tottenham apparently looked at last year, didn't take it.
Still looking, Sean.
Possibly, but I don't. Why would you sign a player that's injured?
He's a better tarsal.
Players for cover, Yeah, but look, he's a great player. I'm a massive fan of Ito. A big fan of Itakura as well. I'm just saying that for me, if we're trying to fill 4 positions, right? We're trying to get some support in the forward role. We're trying to get some support in a striker and/or in the wing forwards. I think if you went for a Jonathan David at the top, and then you went and got a Patrick Dorgu that could play right wing forward, left wing forward, and cover at left back, then you could go and get someone like a Hanko who can play left-sided centre back and left back, or you could go and get an Itakura that can cover for Romero and/or for on the left side to cover for Van der Ven. And then the only other option that you need, if you were to get some of those or 1 or 2 of those done, then you just need someone for me who can come in as a central midfielder who can offer a little bit of support. I look at the central midfield options that we have for the future, and I'm incredibly excited. I really am. When we get Archie Gray moving forward, a little double pivot there with a Lucas Bergvall, the future is incredibly bright in our midfield, especially with Pape starting in amongst that as well. But for now, you can make the argument that there are players out there that Tottenham should be looking at, either on a loan deal or a permanent. And I know we're going to come to him, but Douglas Luiz for me just makes so much sense.
It's in. Sorry, is that I really like. I don't know how possible it is to get his Tamori. He's a strong runner, pacey. He's more central than left-sided, but I think they paid about 35 million for him down at AC Milan. But listen, he survived out in Italy, AC Milan, and you have to be half decent to survive that long. I think he offers us what we need at the club, and I think he's more within our price range. I'm not quite sure how long he's left on his contract. If I'm sure,
he's got left.
How long?
I think he's got 18 months left.
18 months, but he pace, strong tackling, good in the air, and flexible. He can play in various positions. Although I prefer him sort of central right, but he can play on the left as well. So I just think there are options out there. Are we brave enough to go and take the plunge, or are we waiting for another next big thing and buying a 21-year-old?
It's interesting, Johnny, you go down that line. I mean, we have heard talk this last week that Daniel Levy was pretty much key and influential behind the deal to bring Kingsley to the football club. Our understanding is that he actually flew as part of a delegation to actually go and make that deal happen. So I think it's very interesting when we sit here and talk about the influence of certain characters and certain members of staff behind the scenes and what they are doing. Again, there is a lot of talk right now in relation to Fabio Paratici still having a major role behind Tottenham's transfer windows. And yet, again, he is just there at the moment on a consultancy basis, whereas you've got Johan Langer there, who is still the technical director. And I just wonder at times how that does work and whether there's a situation where at certain points they even feel quite undermined when they're being tasked to find the next right player for Tottenham. I just find it very intriguing when you've got Paratici, who has worked for Tottenham and the degree of finding players for, as you remember, Antonio Conte. And then he had to really change that approach for trying to find someone like Ange Postecoglou type of profile players that are so different, you'd imagine, to what again, Antonio Conte will be looking for. But I mean, just to stick on Shawnee's point there, I know, Sean, you've put quite a big feature up on your own personal channel with regards to Douglas Luiz. And I do see on the socials of a lot of Spurs fan channels that this is the player that I think many would love to see Tottenham move for, Douglas Luiz. I mean, at the moment, I've got to be able to say, I don't see a huge amount of momentum gathering for him. But whilst there has been links to suggest Tottenham should be interested if the player does become available, would that be a potential missing link, Sean, in our midfield? We'll go to Mitch on that next.
Yeah, look, for me, he's a player that ticks every single box. I've been speaking about the need for I call him a monster six since, as soon as Ange came, I looked at our squad and thought, Bissouma's not really the guy. Bentancur isn't the guy. Højbjerg wasn't the guy. Bergvall, I didn't know enough about, but, didn't really tick those boxes. I look at someone like Douglas Luiz, who adds fight, tenacity, strength, aerial presence, not afraid to tackle. He's got 91, 92% pass completions wherever he's been. He's got Premier League experience, incredibly impactful in Aston Villa's rise under Unai Emery last year. And, part of the Brazilian furniture, I guess, in that national team. And, he went to Juventus for 40-odd million, and it hasn't really worked out yet. He's only played 11% of starting minutes for them. Now, look, he said he wants to stay and fight for his place. He said part of the draw for him going there in the first place, outside of playing for Juventus, was that he had some Brazilian teammates in that squad. And look, Juventus are obviously trying to, they've always got financial issues, Juventus. They are like the kind of Barcelona of the Serie A in that they always seem to have problems, but they always seem to figure out a way to get things done. But if they're interested in signing Kolo Muani, as I alluded to on a video I did earlier, I think that there's a possibly a way there, utilising the Paratici relationship to be able to say, maybe if Tottenham decide that they could go after Jonathan David, if Tottenham decides to go to Lecce and pay the asking price for a winger like Dorgu, then maybe Muani not as necessary. And maybe you could strike a deal and say, look, there's rumours that Nottingham Forest are going to put in a loan bid for Douglas Luiz, and Man United are interested, and Aston Villa maybe want him back. Newcastle. So I don't know why Tottenham aren't in there. In terms of fit horses for courses for this system, it makes more sense than I think 95% of midfielders that we've been linked with. I think he's absolutely perfect. He could be the missing link that gets our season going again. It doesn't have to be a permanent deal. You don't have to get involved in the blockade of our youth players that are coming through. It could be a loan with an option, loan with an obligation, or it could be a 6 or an 18-month deal. I just think the guy has got everything. And don't forget the Premier League experience. He's not a risk. He knows exactly how to handle this league. One of the best midfielders last season. And if it's not working out at Juve, I have absolutely no idea why we are not making moves for this guy. Because for me, it's just a 10 out of 10 logical transfer.
Well, I've got to say, Sean, you make such a strong case there for him. And that's even before the news that we did hear earlier today that we understand that Rodrigo Bentancur has suffered concussion. And unfortunately, well, the best wishes, of course, are with the player. I think the Bentancur in general has been a really stop-start season for him. Of course, he had that situation over the summer, which led to him being banned for a number of games. And, to bring you in here, just so I bring the latest on Bentancur, as part of the concussion protocol, Bentancur is required to take 12 days off to recover from that concussion he suffered versus Liverpool, because it is the second time he has suffered such an injury this season. This does mean that he'll definitely be sidelined for matches against Tamworth, Arsenal and Everton. And if all does go well, he could be in line to return for Hoffenheim on the 23rd of January. Again, we've spoken about the fact of where we are with, you spoke, Mitch, from the fact where we are with defenders right now. Does that accelerate our situation around bringing a centre-back in? Do I also say, again, with the situation around Bentancur, with the fact of, again, Bissouma's long-term future here, can you see a move for Luiz? I know it sounds silly me saying this at times. Tottenham don't do logical signings. And to be fair, surely lays out all the reasons there why this should be a logical signing. What's your take on it for you, Mitch?
Yeah, I can only echo what's been said already. I think he'd be a fantastic addition. Obviously, Premier League seasoned, hasn't really settled in Italy at all, wants to come back. Again, it's very similar to the Kolo Muani thing, isn't it? I think a lot of clubs are interested in him, so it'd be a bit of a battle. But yeah, he's perfect. He's such an upgrade, I think, on what we have, and more suited to that sort of midfield role that we need to fill. He's excellent at switching the play and progressing the ball. He is very good under pressure. I used to watch him for Villa, and I thought he was absolutely class. So yeah, I'd be a big fan if that was one we went for. Again, it always comes down to, like you just mentioned, logical signings and whether we'd actually go for a player of his caliber and like him. So, yeah, it's one to keep an eye on, I think. Definitely. I can't see that being a deal that we would get done early in the transfer window. I feel like it would be more of I hate saying it, opportunity-based transfer late on in the window if nobody's picked him up at that point. But going back to the point that you mentioned about Bentancur, absolutely. I think bless him, he has had such a stop-start season this year. He always seems to have one issue or another. Obviously, very, very glad that the news was that it wasn't anything more severe than a concussion and that he's recovering well, and absolutely should be taking a couple of weeks to get fully back to full health. So, yeah, when you take him out of the fold again, I thought, although Basuma was excellent against Liverpool on Wednesday, I thought he actually had a really, really good game. He's hit and miss on the pitch. He can either be really good or really, really poor. Lucas Bergvall is going to need to be managed, despite how well he's played in his last 2 appearances for Tottenham. We've got to remember he's only an 18-year-old kid and he needs sort of looking after, otherwise you can damage him for the long term. And then, you look at what other options we have in that sort of defensive midfield role, and one of them is Archie Gray, who's still having to fill in at centre-back, so he's not going to play there. Pat Matar is there, but he looks quite tired at some points, and that's probably about your lot, really. So I'd say we've been needing that sort of number 6 defensive midfielder in that sort of area of the pitch for a while anyway, and I would have liked to have seen us bring one in the summer. But with players constantly dipping out of the squad and issues, and just our injury record in general anyway this season, like I mentioned, going back to the Van der Ven and the Romero injuries, and you've kindly put the injuries up on the screen for those watching here, the amount of players we've had out over the course of a season, realistically you have to have a bit of common sense and think, well, it's highly likely that someone else gets injured before the end of the season. We've still got a good 4 months, at least 4-5 months even, of a season still to go. So reinforcements in that area, I definitely don't think it will harm us. And Douglas Luiz would be an immense option to have in that area. I'd love it. He'd be a very, very good signing that I think would get everyone excited as well. I think that's the sort of player you bring in and everyone's really, really happy about that. And you almost can't wait to watch what he can do on the pitch, and which you don't say too often for a sort of defensive midfielder, unless you're like a Rodri or someone like that. So yeah, very interesting one, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree there with both the boys. The points have made there. I'm sure I can see Jay, you're also nodding away there. I presume you're going to double down on the fact that this seems so logical, for Tottenham. You imagine that, I wonder, Jay, just back to Mitch's point there. Do you think, again, similar to Mitch's point there, do you think this will be one that would maybe drag on to the latter end of the window and Tottenham might look at it as more of an opportunity based rather than one they'd like to do in the early period of the window, given they've actually got some midfielders there, but maybe arguably not as good as what Luiz can be on his day, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, listen, look, there's limited resources, loans with options, how they structure a deal if they have to actually buy someone. So, yeah, I think some of these deals could drag on till the end. But, he's a top player. It's interesting, looking at the Premier League at the moment to see how many players Man City have sold and how they've, look at Douglas Luiz, you look at Delap, you look at Morgan Rogers and Douglas Luiz, all players that Man City have let go, and they're really excelling in the Premier League now. Now they're looking to, bring players in. For me, Douglas Luiz, when I saw him at Villa, I just was a massive, massive fan of his in every aspect of his play. I mean, listen, maybe Bentancur, when he's had concussion, he'll wake up and he'll think he's Douglas Luiz and add some bites in the game. We haven't signed Douglas Luiz, but Bentancur thinks he is Douglas Luiz, and he is our new signing. He's come in a lot cheaper, but no, listen, look, he's one we, I think as Sean and I spent so much time talking about Monster Sixes until we're blue in the face, and this is the guy to keep us going until Archie is ready to step in as that Monster Six.
One thing I've also got to ask you guys, that there were some tentative links early in the week to Marcus Rashford. We understand that West Ham now are potentially looking at a loan deal for the player. I can see this is one that's already splitting the panel here for our listeners and audio. I can see they're getting a lot of different looks. Shawnee's giving me a nod, say definitely not. Mitch's stone face. That's just Mitch's general look on this show.
Well, look on the bright side.
Don't want Marcus Rashford. You do not want Marcus Rashford in this system. He's Brennan Johnson on steroids. Let's be honest, right? This system, I've said it 1,000 times, it doesn't need show ponies. Even if they're good on their day, it needs workhorses in every position. And Marcus Rashford is not a workhorse.
I might say one thing before I forget, actually, Shildy put up on the Spurs talk show a terrific clip which gave a cameo performance of Brennan Johnson with the horse.
A dressage horse.
Yeah. Dressage horse.
Yeah,
I've got to say, I mean, I know Brennan Johnson does really split opinions amongst the Spurs fan base. There'll be some that have said that he's really improved this season in terms of a goal input and output. But at the end of the day, I think when you're looking at a player to run a game, have a real key influence on a game, I think we haven't seen that enough from Brennan. But I mean, very quickly on this room, we'll get it out of the way, guys.
Well, Josh,
Marcus Rashford, Johnny, for you, yes or no, Marcus Rashford?
Listen, as a player, no. If you want to help the community and, if you sign for Spurs, think about all the free school dinners they'd get in Haringey. That's about the only plus I can think of. Let him go out to the basketball in New York and, dressed in his white Louis Vuitton outfit, looking like a complete idiot. We want players who are focused on football and football only, right? Who have the right attitude. He's just such the wrong character for Ange Postecoglou.
It's interesting.
Not the right player either. He's not the right player.
No, he's not the right.
Absolutely not the right player. He's a luxury. Even when he's on form and he's at his very best, he's a luxury. And this system does not reward luxuries. It rewards hard work and talent and skill. But technicality has to be molded with grit and determination. And Marcus Rashford has demonstrated none of that since he signed his new contract.
So that's
Mitch,
2 no's.
Mitch, what are you saying? Are we going to pull out here, Mitch, or are you going to disagree with the boys? What do you reckon? Marcus Rashford.
Yeah, I do lean that way. I don't think I'm as staunchly no to Rashford as the other two are, but I think it would be an incredibly risky move. The only way I could see something like this happening for a deal with Rashford would be 6-month loan with an option to buy in the summer, and I just can't see it. I can't see Man United dealing with us anyway. Everything it doesn't seem like it's a good fit to me, just in general, in terms of what the others have already mentioned about system. You don't want to draw too much tension off of the team as a whole. You don't want people focusing just on individual players. I think we have quite a nice balance at Tottenham where no one's really singled out too much in the games that we play, and when we're playing really well, it's all more of a team effort. But I feel like if you bring a player like Rashford in, immediately that goes out the window. Everybody's going to be focused on whether he can get back to his best and what he can do on the pitch. It's just it's not the right energy for me. But
Mitch, can you imagine just quickly, Mitch? Can you imagine having Brennan Johnson, James Maddison, Marcus Rashford, and Sonny as the 9?
Yeah,
where's that like high press? Where's that high press going to work? Who out of those 4 are going to win the ball back at the top end of the pitch? Not one of them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw it. It took Lucas Bergvall sprinting from the middle of the pitch to chase down Alisson on Wednesday night to win the ball back in a high press. Obviously, I know Solanke does it quite well as well, being the other exception. Yeah. But yeah, Rashford's not one for me personally. But I do actually think that he does still have it in him in terms of his talent and what he can produce. It was only, I think, 2 seasons ago where he had a 30-goal campaign
he did.
under Ten Hag. But the way that Manchester United played their football under Ten Hag, I think that season in particular was very well suited to him. But the system that we play, you guys would have all seen the clips from the games that he has played this season of him just strolling around, not putting any effort in terms of his defensive work and
letting players go past it, Mitch. I mean, it's embarrassing.
That's what I mean. It's not the right mold. I don't think he's a Tottenham player personally.
Okay, interesting. Look, I'll be honest with you, in terms of other links at the moment, they're fairly not a huge amount on the ground right now. We know Spurs have been removed for Frattesi of Inter Milan. That player likes to be playing football. He doesn't like to be a player that is not in teams and line up. So again, one maybe to keep an eye on. Players that potentially could be heading out the door. We know Brian Hill is of serious interest to Girona at the moment. It's whether Girona will be keen to activate that current figure that Spurs have got in the contract in order for him to join them permanently. We're led to believe that is around the £12.4 million mark, that purchase clause, and it's one to keep an eye on. I mean, look, from a Tottenham perspective, I think his future, pretty much, there isn't one from a Tottenham perspective. But what is quite interesting, just to also be clear, is that Timo Werner, there were links early on the Friday of potentially Eintracht Frankfurt looking to bring the player back to Germany. We're also been told that those links are very much firmly wide of the mark. As things stand, Timo Werner will stay a Tottenham player until at least the end of the season. But what we are led to being told is that Tottenham at the moment have got no intention of re-signing Werner for a third time.
I believe that.
But we have
from what I've heard, everybody, all the Frankfurters have been renaming themselves hot dogs to distance themselves from any speculation. They don't want anything to do with that particular link, and rightly so. Can you imagine if they sold Omar Mamouche and brought him? There'd be uproar in Frankfurt. It'd be crazy.
We love a Mamouche. I
think they would dress up as hot dogs to try and avoid being spotted as fans in that game against Shawnee. Look, that should pretty much a transfer update. We'll bring you more as soon as we get it here on Last Word on Spurs. But look, Muani very much in the balance. Timo Werner set to stay. Rodrigo Bentancur out for what's going to be at least 12 days as a minimum. And we're now going to look ahead to Tamworth to come, of course, for Tottenham on Sunday, where it is the magic of the cup. We can't afford there to be any giant killing. We're going to hear from Ange Postecoglou now. I'm going to give you our quick thoughts out of that game to come. And you're also going to hear, can I just say, 7-8 years I've done Last Word on Spurs, we have found a Tamworth football podcast that gives us a preview. I can't believe it. I'm not sure you can either. We've got that squeezed in for our listeners and audio as well. Fantastic. Brilliant, isn't it? Let's hear from Ange Postecoglou and we'll get the guys' thoughts on where we are going into Tamworth on Sunday.
Okay, guys, we'll start with the broadcast section with no embargo, followed by an embargo section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. No live tweeting on the broadcast section. Please use the microphone provided. Paul.
Thank you. Hi, Ange. What can you tell us about team news for the Tamworth game, your approach to this game, and also Rodrigo Bentancur, how he is?
Yeah, all right, start with, I guess, Rodrigo. Mostly, positive news. He obviously went to hospital after the game. Was concussed. They've done every check that they needed to do, and understanding is he's gone home now. So that's real positive news for us, because obviously it was a bit of a distressing situation that everyone had to deal with. But I think the players, Pedro did a great job initially of notifying our medical team, did a great job, and so now it's just about recovery for him, obviously, and there are set protocols in place, but aside from those set protocols, we'll make sure that we give him as much time as he needs to get back.
You must be relieved there's no VAR in this game after the last couple of games you've had with VAR and your comments about it both before and after games.
Yeah.
You are relieved. I could
was that the question? Am I relieved?
No.
Yeah,
and leading into you, give you an answer.
And my answer is
yeah, maybe.
No, I didn't say yeah, maybe. I said yeah. You asked me if I'm relieved. I said yes. So it's kind of.
How relieved are you then?
Oh, just look again.
How fed up with VAR?
No. Look, I'm not going to go. Look, I had my say after the game, and I felt I had to, because I needed to clarify my position on it. But at the same time, I'm also mindful, and I think sometimes I've overstepped the mark, is that, in some of those situations I talk as an individual, as a person who, loves the game, is passionate about the game, but I'm also representative of this football club, and I just got to be careful about, how much I talk about this stuff. I'd rather talk about football, to be honest, and I think I've had my say on kind of those kind of events, and I've left it, to other people to judge, but, I'd much rather talk about the football. That's where my interest lay.
Ange Postecoglou, absolutely no interest in VAR, despite the fact, of course, that he gave us a VAR press conference in the previous one. But Ange gave us his thoughts there on VAR. Look, we said to you, we bring you any more news that comes through to us if there's any more updates on Conor Muani. This is so typical in the world of doing this kind of thing, that as soon as we say we'll bring you some more updates, if there is one, we've got an update and we're live on air, so we'll bring you that update right now. Mitch very kindly giving me that indicator that we've had some news coming through, and this is from both Lyle Thomas over at Sky Sports and the very well trusted Damasio in the journalist world, and that is at the moment, Juventus are absolutely convinced that they are in pole position to complete the signing of Kolo Muani from Paris Saint-Germain, a player that Tottenham Hotspur want to sign this transfer window. So just to bring you that news again, as far as we understand here, recording right now, Juventus are convinced they're in pole position to sign Kolo Muani from Paris Saint-Germain. And like I said, if there's any news more on that, we'll bring it to you. The other boys have got a very quick thought on that at all. Mitch, you very kindly gave that information. I think, as you said, Mitch, never be surprised. It's a transfer window. Things can happen, right? Where we are right now, it could change again, but it looks like they're in pole position at the moment, Juve.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean anything until things are agreed, does it? Just because you think you're in pole position, it's very interesting. It might be sort of a tactic that they're using just to perhaps put people off and maybe make them think that deal is nearly there. But, you know, a lot of people always say to me, I'm not believing anything until the player's pictured holding the shirt. So that is sort of my attitude towards this whole thing with how many, you know, teams are involved in this Kolo Muani deal. But what I would say, you know, we know that Sky Sports is on all over the place around the Tottenham Hotspur training ground. So if they see that, if they're reporting it live on there, if Daniel Levy and Ange Postecoglou and Johan Lange want Kolo Muani, then they need to get a move on and they need to get something in the books to try and get that deal over the line. Otherwise, it will be too late.
Shawnee, you still confident it'll be a Spurs player?
I ran in the kiss of death, literally within half an hour of me putting my neck on the line, completely mudded.
And just to be clear, I don't make sure put himself on the line there, but it's the world of what we live. It's the world of what we live in now, isn't it? It's what we live in. It's what we live in.
Yeah,
I mean, what do you
yeah.
think,
On the
Shawnee?
deadline day, put my neck on the line. I called Dragonstein, I called Pedro Porro. Everyone gave me the claw. The second I come on your channel, Ricky, I put my neck on for the first time. I'm completely mudded. Typical Butler. It is what it is. Like I said, if he goes that way, here's what the argument I make is there's other directions you can go in. Plus, also, if they're Juventus are in financial difficulty like they usually are, then them having to outlay a lion's share of the wages for Kolo Muani might make a Douglas Luiz transfer more possible. And if you had to give me the option of Douglas Luiz or Muani, you know who I'm going for, right? Douglas Luiz, and then pivot and go in a different direction at the top end. Go for Jonathan David. Go and get yourself Patrick Dorgu. We've already spoken about this. So it's a shame if it happens, but I'm also with Mitch, you know, until they hold the shirt.
Thank you so much, Shawnee. And Johnny, from you there, any surprise, or is that just the nature of the transfer window? Things are always going to drop, but it could be a long month. Could be a long month. We never know. We never know until, obviously, like, I agree with Mitch, until he's holding the shirt, nothing is ever decided, right?
No, listen, I was in pole position once and still lost. I think. Listen, I thought it was on a sure thing, but unfortunately, I wasn't. I wonder
where that show was going in for a second. We're not even at the watershed yet.
Listen, look. You know, William was at Spurs training ground. They thought he was going to see. He says, "I'm just going to the toilet," and he went out the back door. So,
how many have done that, John?
You know, I mean, look, the football transfer business is a dirty business. Okay, the word is our bond. No, it's not. No one's word is worth anything in this game. And as Mitch and Sean, and as we all know, we're all long in the tooth. Until they're holding that shirt up, it's rumour. And as Sean said, you know, if we miss out, I'm happy to pivot the other direction. And, you know, sometimes a pivot in the other direction could be to our benefit. And if it's Douglas Luiz, I would not be upset if I signed Jonathan David. In fact, I think I might be happier with the drop-off and form of Kolo Muani. That's my honest opinion.
Well, there you go. You heard it from the guys there. If there's any more news, we'll bring it to you. We're waiting now. More news. More news. Mitch will tell me the more news. We will. We just brought in Ange Postecoglou's presser there, part of the presser ahead of Tamworth to come on Sunday. Look, I think we're used to the world being against Tottenham to win a game. Look, we're Tottenham fans, but we're used to the world not wanting Tottenham to win games. But I think, like, again, on Sunday, there'll be more than that than ever. It's obviously a potential massive underdog in Tamworth, a non-league side playing Tottenham. I've already seen suggestions that the player that scores for Tamworth, if they knock Tottenham out of the FA Cup, gets free beer for life in Tamworth. So can you imagine now the motivation as a Tamworth player? Free beer for life. They're going to want to score against Tottenham. And you'd imagine as things stand, it will probably be Kinski in goal for Spurs. But quite an interesting question that was put to Ange that roughly a little bit was asked around the fact that how will our players feel being changed in the very small porter cabins at Tamworth. Let's see what Anne said back to that question.
Hi, Zara from ITV News. So my colleagues at the Tamworth grounds right now, AstroTurf pitch, apparently the dressing room's barely a cabin. I know you're used to that, but is this going to be a shock to the system for your multi-million-pound players?
They're actually not multi-million-dollar players. They're human beings who are very well they're very understanding. They're good people. So they would never go to a place like that and disrespect it. Most of them have come from places like that. Some worse, let me tell you. So you won't find, I know people want to tag them as multi-million-dollar sort of, maybe spoiled, but they're human beings and they're good people. And they'll go there and they'll respect the fact that, Tamworth are going to build it up for the biggest game of probably their lives. And, I'm sure they'll do their best to create an environment where, they're going to be proud of their ground, they're going to be proud of their facilities, because that's what they work with, and that's how we'll treat it on the day. So I don't really think that's an issue for us. What's important for us is to prepare ourselves for an important cup game.
Well, I think you know what's interesting. I've got to say, I think the great thing about having Ange Postecoglou in charge for this kind of fixture is that man has come from very humble beginnings in terms of his footballing career, and therefore he would have known what it is like to be on the other end of the spectrum, being the underdog and having to really fight his way up, not just the footballing ladder, but also the managerial pyramid. So I think one thing that I do believe that what he will do instill in the team here, Jay, to come over to you, is that I would hope there will be no complacency. I would hope there'll be no let up in terms of what we're going to see from the players, because the FA Cup, for many Spurs fans out there, we know, look, we won it all the way back in 91, a long, long time ago as Tottenham fans. We've got a very rich heritage with this competition. Do you think he will be able to instill into the players just how important this match will be? Because it will be shown around the world. And if there's one club that we know loves to be the butt of a lot of jokes, it's our beloved Tottenham. So how important is it, Jay, that the attitude and application is right for this game, despite, as we know, the amount of injuries we've got to face here, Jay?
Yes, but listen, it's very important. I mean, that is a presser, but as I said to you earlier, it's more like a depressor sometimes when you listen to him in those scenes. Listen, look, I understood where he was coming from. Look, this is a massively important game for us. There can be no excuses. They're called the Lambs, and let's hope we lead the Lambs to slaughter and we destroy them. I mean, we should hold nothing back. Andy Peake is quite a good chat talker himself, actually. If you listen to some of his videos before the game, I think they beat Huddersfield in the first round. That was huge for them. And then they beat Burton Albion on penalties, which was another huge thing for them. I think this is the fourth time they've reached the third round. So it's a huge game for them. And the revenue streams that they're going to get from this, I think I heard that Spurs were charging Spurs £170 to stand up and have a full English breakfast with a pie at half time. What a bargain. Look, I think the club will take it seriously. It's whether or not I'd be very interested to see the team he puts out. I would love to see Alfie Dorrington start. I'd like to see Mikey Moore start. I'd like to see Lang start. And a couple of 2 or 3 maybe experienced players, whether it's Maddison or whoever, and have our mainstay players sat on the bench just in case things get a little bit rough. But I expect to get right at them. I think their top scorer is Creaney. I can't remember his name. And I forgot the other guy's name. What's his name?
Well, I did say that earlier, Johnny, whilst you maybe try and find it. I saw they've got the guy with the long throw-in, and I'm thinking, maybe I would have been a bit more if it was Vic in there, but now we've changed
Tonks.
it.
Tonks, yeah. Tommy Tonk, he's going to tonk it in.
Surely, did you see that throw? Did you see the length of that throw?
Yeah. Echoes of Rory Delap for Stoke in like 2002, whatever it was. Yeah,
I mean, non-league.
Danger there for a team that hasn't got a brilliant track record at aerial defensive prowess like Tottenham don't. There's a chance there.
All I would say is I bet Vic's bloody glad he's on the bench at the moment, right? I mean, imagine Vic having to face that at the moment. Maybe he's glad that Kingsley will be in it. Are we all in agreement that Kingsley will start this one again? Jay, just tip you for a second there. Kingsley will start second game in a row. I personally feel it would be a really nice touch if Brandon Austin got a game. I just feel, listen, the tree has to step aside now. He's been felled. Keep him in the side. I'd love to see Brandon Austin. He had a good game. I felt a bit sorry for him. I'm sure he can handle Tamworth. I actually think you just mentioned Vicario there. The image and the video of him hugging Kinski at the end there, it was so uncomfortable. Yeah, loveliest senior guy. Here he is. The fella's going to nick my job.
Who's this guy? And the funny thing was, straight after he signed, he posted a picture. Look, I've not got my boot on. I'm fresh. I'm ready to go.
I'm ready, boss. I'm
ready, boss.
So you say, Jay, in your opinion, then you'd like to see Brandon Austin giving a go on this one? You're saying, or you wouldn't be that fun?
Look, this is probably be his last hurrah for the club. Well, I would have thought. So I think this is a nice way to say thank you to him, and from here on in, we'll be playing better opposition. So it will be Kinski and obviously Vic when he comes back.
Yeah, totally agree. Jay, prediction? What are you going to go for?
I'm going to go lambs to the slaughter, and I'm going to go. God, are we going to keep a clean sheet? Listen, if we can keep a clean sheet against Liverpool, surely even on a 3G pitch, I'm going to go 5-1. Okay, no, I'm going to go 5-1 to Spurs.
Can I just say, this is a historic moment, the last one on Spurs. Not only has Johnny said he's going for a Tottenham win, he's actually said we're going to score by 5. That happen. Can I just tell you, this won't happen often on this show if Johnny's on here.
Oh, hang on a minute. This is the first time I've actually come on the show after a win.
don't tell him that, Jay. We're keeping him up, not bringing him down. Jay going for a 5-1 Tottenham win. Even he couldn't give us a clean sheet. We're working on him. All right, we're working him on him. Jay, thank you so much. Can I just say, make sure you are. There's over 4,400 of you watching this show live right now on all of our platforms, X, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the lot. Please go and make sure you go and subscribe to Johnny's Instagram. Unfortunately, Johnny lost all of his followers, I think, last week on Instagram. So please go and follow his Instagram. For our listeners on audio, that is at Talking Tottenham 1882. Offer some really good content around game day footage, analysis, opinions. You might like them all, just to be clear, but some great footage, Jay. Is that all right?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Let's go
on the show, love.
Bless you. And likewise, love having you on here. Surely we'll come to you next. Jay mentioned about giving some youngsters a chance. How important is it, surely, that we do get the selection right, given it's the FA Cup, given Tottenham away from home, given it's against a side that, let's be honest about it, they're going to want to give their absolute everything to get a result. And just to be very, very clear, no replay. There is penalties. Just throwing that in there.
Look, I'll be honest. So I did a show a couple of earlier this week, I think, or last week, about Tottenham's failure to win cups. What's the kind of root cause of it? And part of the journey in that story was looking at the last 25 years of Tottenham's successes, right? Tottenham's some cup progress, cup exits, whatever. And the vast majority of the times that Tottenham exit a cup in the last 25 years have been against the top 5 teams that always seem to win everything. But over the last few years, there's been a little bit of a discrepancy where we start to kind of get knocked out against teams that are bottom end of the Premier League or even Championship teams. And it's not really acceptable. And for me, I feel like when you consider that Tamworth is going to be the biggest game, I'm not predicting any kind of upset here, but if, God forbid, there was something that was going to happen, and bearing in mind, you do have Tommy Tonks, right? Those sorts of long throws, if they can do it to the style of Rory Delap, they are dangerous. They are really dangerous. And all you need in a cup, you've got the artificial pitch. The weather's predicted to be absolutely horrendous. It's not a perfect scenario for a third round tie. If anything, you can just see that there's that kind of potential banana skin there. And so I don't want to see Tottenham take it lightly. I don't mind. I'm with Johnny in that it's an opportunity to kind of give some players a rest finally. It's an opportunity to give some of the younger guys a chance. But we don't really have that many options to be able to kind of go into the rotation sphere. And
Andrew said we're training on that on Saturday, which it sounded like we've not been training on it at all apart from Saturday. So we've had 1 day. We're gonna have one day on the artificial pitch, and
that really isn't kind of a lot. It's not a lot, especially if those guys play on it all the time, which you imagine they would do. So I don't want to necessarily go down the path. I'm not suggesting I think there's a banana skin on the cards, but it's possible. And like you say, Ricky, no replay, no second chances, right? So, and you don't even want to go to penalty because penalties are a lottery regardless. So I just want Tottenham. I want Tottenham to take it with the necessary respect. To go back to Ange's press conference for a real quick second there, I felt like his sort of snappy reaction towards the ITV journalist, it came across when I first heard it as like unnecessarily kind of dour, unnecessarily kind of like, she was asking a kind of light-hearted question or whatever, but he kind of took it as a way. But at the same time, I think it is necessary to pay the respect to that those guys, what they have, the resources they have, and don't come across as arrogant or above it or beneath it rather. But at the same time, I feel like Ange sometimes takes himself a little bit too seriously with his responses. He doesn't need to necessarily always be quite so cutting towards the press. But at least I think it was Jonny who said it. At least he is treating the game with the credibility that it deserves, because there is a risk there. And for me, look, we've got a big second match against Liverpool. The European tie is coming up as well. We've got to fix that out. But we have a very good chance here in 3 competitions. Don't mess this up. Go with the youth, but also make sure you've got a little bit of quality in there to make sure that we get the job done on the day. I'm not going to be as brave as Jonny and say 5-1. I'm going to say 3-0.
Can I just add before Mitch comes in, because I think this is very important. On Wednesday, we have a game against a team called Arsenal. And basically, Arsenal are playing Man United. And this is a game they can't take lightly, especially with what's going on right now. They have to field a strong team. And I just feel that this is the opportunity for us to look at a bigger picture, that how relevant this game against Arsenal could be in our season, and how it could be a catalyst for us to move forward. So while I totally agree that we must take this game seriously, I'd like to be playing some more professional, more established players who maybe haven't had the minutes, like Pape Sarr and Maddison, what have you, to get in that game. I'd like to see our players fresh and have a week off before this big game, this huge game that's coming up on Wednesday.
Jonny, it's a really important point, and thanks so much for bringing that to the panel there. And Mitch, we'll close with you. Always a pleasure, Mitch. Thank you so much. You'll be back with us during this January transfer window. Mitch, you mentioned the fact that the players are going to train on that artificial pitch. And Postecoglou has said he's absolutely adamant they will not in any way underestimate the opponent, the competition, what we're going to be up against. On that basis, Mitch, how do you feel we'll go into the game, and any concerns for you based on the fact we probably will rotate the squad that is already decimated by injury, and with Arsenal coming on Wednesday there, what kind of do you feel Ange will go with?
I think it'll be a bit of a mix, and I think that is the right sort of balance to strike. I think you want to go out and you want to win the game as early as you can, and obviously you don't want to disrespect Tamworth, and you don't want to sort of take it too lightly. But if we wanted to, we could put out our strongest team, and there's no reason why that group of players couldn't go out there and be 4-0 up after half an hour. Let's be completely honest here. I'm not saying that's going to happen, because it won't, because that's just not how it works. But when you think in the gap of quality between these two teams and the differences in which leagues they're in, you want to go out, you want to win the game early, and that is when resting players comes into my mind, because I want to win the FA Cup. I want to win it. We've been handed, a decent enough draw in the first round. So go out, get it done. and then, take the players off. I don't think the likes of Sonny or Kulusevski will start or play this game. Hopefully they're not needed at all. But yeah, it's even with the players that we can play that haven't had as many minutes this season, they're still way more capable of just going out and taking control of the game, artificial pitch or not. So, but I know I say all of this and I make it sound so easy, but I know I am very much aware that that's not how football works. I know very much what the FA Cup is famous for, a cup of knocking giants out, big upsets, everything in between. And there is the chance that could happen. But considering how our season has gone so far in the league, there's no excuses for even putting anyone on edge in this game. I want to take it completely seriously and have a strong enough team out there so that we don't have the chance to even make a mess of it. That's just me anyway.
No, fine. Mitch, prediction, what are we going for?
We will concede. Absolutely, we will concede, considering how much they're up for it, and the artificial pitch and the fact that their fella can throw it into the back of the net if he wanted to. I'll say I'm gonna go for a 6-1 win.
6-1. Okay. Guys, we started with transfers. We're going to end on a transfer question to you all very quickly. We'll just keep a track on this week by week. We're going to go with this. I'm going to ask you to predict how many signings Tottenham will make during this January transfer window. Kinski's already through the lines. I feel for you to include him in your number you're going to give me. We'll start with Jonny on this. Jonny, how many transfers Tottenham going to make, including or excluding Kinski? If you want to, let me know.
Just very quickly, just to add, all these people who keep saying typical Tottenham, we got such an easy draw in the FA Cup. Let me just tell you, when was the last time a team got to a final having beaten Man City, Man United and Liverpool, if we do make it?
Sorry, Jonny, just on that before you come back in, on that show about what I did about why Tottenham don't win trophies anymore,
that's
exactly what I don't. No, Tottenham Hotspur, statistically, it's since the advent of the Premier League, 1991, Tottenham Hotspur have played against more, have been drawn against more Premier League teams than any other football team in English football.
That's amazing stat.
Deserve this. We deserve this. We deserve this. Right, back to the question. Sorry to
no problem at all. It's not like we deviate on the show much. Go for it, Jay. Go for it.
Two. I would say we're going to sign two more players, so 3 in total. I think we'll sign one attacker and one defender, but just a caveat there, if something materialises, if an opportunity comes along, Spurs are the opportunity, not club. And if something does come up and it's a deal, we'll certainly be delving in to try and get it. But I'm going to go for 2 more.
Jay, you're a star. Thank you so much. We'll see you very, very soon. Maybe we're going to say go check Jay's Instagram out. I'm sure you'll see him a lot on Shawnee's shows to come as well. Shawnee, like I say, please, everybody out there, keep checking out the Spurs Talk Show. Lots of incredible content coming your way, as always, with Shawnee over there at the Spurs Talk Show. Shawnee, how many times are we going to make between now and in the window?
3 more, excluding... I'm going to go with your man, Darren at the Mirror. He said 3 more last night, didn't he? I'm going to join him. I'm going to say, we're going to get in a forward, a midfielder and a versatile defender. So 3 more.
Shawnee, thank you so much. We'll see you Monday. Mitch, will close with you. Mitch, how many we sign between now and the end of the window? I know it's easy one to end on.
I'll stick with what I said on Tuesday. I think it'll be 2 more. Kinski plus another 2. And I agree with what Jonny said. An attacker and a defender is, I think, where we will end up by the time the window closes.
Well, there you go. Mitch, thank you so much. Make sure you go and check Mitch again on the YouTube scene. Listen, guys, there you go. That is your transfer roundup for the week. So a move from Muani potentially in doubt. As things stand, Juventus are in pole position to sign the player, and he has already apparently given them a yes with regards to that. We understand as things stand, Timo Werner is set to stay at Tottenham. You're thinking, give us some good news, Ricky. Does that mean a Douglas Luiz move could be open? We'll check and see with Shawnee if that can happen. Listen, we have been the last word on Spurs. We'll bring you more as soon as we get it. From Jonny, from Shawnee, from Mitch, from me. Guys, please keep safe. Keep well. We'll see you after Tamworth. And as always, come on, you Spurs.